I think that just reaffirms to me that timing is everything,
Yeah.
and you're initially were rejected, but again, you stay persistent, you stay dedicated. And 18 years later, that same book that was denied publication is now published.
Right.
And now it is the right time. I think it's the opportune time to be introducing different types of books and narratives that highlighted, emphasize racial equity and other types of equity as well in the community, is like disability. So, I mean,
Right.
you really have found your voice within your publications and your books. So, I mean, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think, as I said, it kind of evolved into this because I think even as young people, so every time I tell people one of my favorite books to read when I was a kid was To Kill a Mockingbird, and there's been, some controversy around that story and stuff like that. But in the 60s, in the mid 60s, we didn't have a whole lot to read. And so that was just one of the books that I was drawn to. And at that time, I didn't know why I was drawn to it. I just loved the story. I didn't really understand the trial and really what was happening, in the trial part of it as a young kid, but I knew I was drawn to it for some reason. So I think sometimes, we're drawn to things for a reason. And so as far as helping people understand the importance of diversity and inclusion and systemic injustice and things like that, even as a young kid, I didn't realize that I would grow into really wanting to share more with people about that through stories for children. My daughter and I, we have a small consulting business where we both do the work. So like I am an IDI, an Intercultural Development Inventory qualified administrator. And she actually teaches in equity. She's the director of equity for her work. So as I got older and starting to do some of the training and stuff around diversity and inclusion, specifically in childcare programs and childcare centers. My daughters were teenagers at the time. And so they used to get really frustrated with me because I pulled them in. I said, you got to help me. I'm putting all this stuff together to take it in to help train people on why it's so important to be diverse and inclusive in your childcare settings. And so they would get frustrated, but they would go with me and they would help me. And so now they're both doing the work, which is amazing. So they didn't realize that at that time that I think I was instilling something in them about the importance around this work that to today, now they are doing the work in their jobs.
Wow. And that as a parent, that is what you're supposed to do, is introduce your children to the things that you're working on and also different possibilities of what they could become. I know my father did it with me. I'm so grateful that I had an active father in my life,
Mm.
a proud Black man who's always been there for his family. And I used to hate it when I used to have to go downtown Minneapolis and sell hot dogs with him. And I used to tell him all the time of, why are we selling hot dogs? Why can't we do this? Why can't we open a restaurant? And he explained to me that if I opened up a restaurant, I have to pay overhead. I have to hire different employees. I have to have this type of insurance and that type of insurance. That way
Right.
I'm not walking away with anything. If I have a hot dog cart, I can make $1,000 a day at this hot dog cart and not have to pay any overhead on it. Only thing I'm paying
Mm.
for is my inspection fees, and I'm paying for the food cost and any license fees, and that's it. And that's a year thing, so I pay that out all the way. And it just, things started clicking in my head when I got older. It's like, wow,
Right.
that's running a successful business. A successful small business is minimizing your
Right.
expenditures. And now I adopted that into everything I do. I always tell people when we talk about financial literacy, and I'm going to go off on a little tangent,
Oh, you're good.
the most important thing is not how much money you make, it's how much money you save and how less you spend. And that's
Mm.
one of the principles my dad always taught me is, you don't have to make $1 million. Just try not to
Mm.
spend that much once you do get that much money.
Right. Right.
If you have $100,000 and you
Right.
spent 60,000, how much did you make? 40. If you made
Right.
80,000 and you spent 30,000, how much did you make? 50. Who made more money? The person who made less in revenue, but spent less. And to me, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
But
So,
this is, we just learn from our parents, and you should listen
oh
to your parents
yeah.
when they're giving you that advice.
Absolutely. You would have a good conversation with my son. My son's a financial advisor in Phoenix, and we have conversations about money all the time. And we have some arguments and we have some good conversations about money. And he's an African American male advisor financial advisor for Merrill Lynch in Phoenix, which is a big to do. He's always so calm about his position and things like that, but he's doing the work and he's educating other people about finances. So, but he actually helped me a lot, and because one of the big barriers as being a self-publishing author is everything's on you. You have to pay for everything. It comes out of your pocket. And he helped me understand that you have to figure out how you're going to finance this stuff. You know, so how are you going to pay for this stuff? My daughter actually helped me too on this. And so you have to think smart about money when you're doing it. You can't use your credit card, you know, to pay for everything. You have to figure out how you're going to fund your passion, if you will. And so I figured it out. And so once I started selling some of the books online, it would automatically, those funds would go back into paying the illustrator for printing and for all of those things. But yeah, finance is a huge part of it. And finances also can be a huge barrier. I did start a Kickstarter campaign, which is, there's 9 days left on it. And so I went that route for the first time, at the advice of another author who did it and was really successful at it. So I said, let me try this to see if this would help fund some of the finances for self-publishing. And so it's still a wait and see and things like that. And it's still a learning process for me right now, but it's something to learn, you know, and finances is part of it. You are a small business and you have to operate as a small business when you are an author or a self-publisher. And that's a huge amount of stress and it's a huge amount of things to learn and understand.